Hello and welcome to the bank education presented by the Sheboygan County Treasurer's Office. I'm Laura Henning Lorenz, the Sheboygan County Treasurer, and I will be your presenter today. I have sent the bank administrators and the bank administrator backups this video, as well as a Word document with written instructions on assisting your municipalities during tax collection season. So the PowerPoint today will follow through the Word document, and I will try to remember to tell you what page we're on in the Word document. So just a couple, we'll start with letter A, which is on page 1, which will be some of the receipting reminders. So once the tax bills are created in our office, we will be sending an email out to the bank administrator. We call it the bank admin and the bank admin backup. And then we will be asking them to also log into the web portal and check to make sure that you can see some of the tax bills for the municipality that we have finished tax bills for. So it'll be just a nice double check for us to know that you have been able to see the data. The nice part about it is you will not need to load anything. The data will be there because we are on a web-based system. And then you can pretty much expect taxpayers to come probably within the next 24 hours or so to start paying their taxes. Just keep in mind that we do require that taxpayers do bring their stub along when they are paying, or they can bring the whole tax bill, and then there is a tear-off stub on the tax bill. Once you and the rest of the folks at your bank see a tax bill and become familiar with it, it will be secondhand to you what to look for as the days go on. So I would just recommend this being, whether you're doing this for the first time or you've been doing it for many years, take your time the very first couple days and get settled into your new routine that will be your routine until January 31st. So if a taxpayer is paying more than one tax bill and they only have one check, we do need you to make separate receipts per tax bill. I'll go into a diagram a little bit later in the PowerPoint. If a taxpayer has many tax bills, so oftentimes we see this in our rural communities where there might be a farmer that has many tax bills, it might be a good idea for you, and I would highly recommend that you just ask the person if you can take their bills and their payment and put it into your system away from the teller line. If you have a computer away from your teller line, that could receipt them, or when your bank isn't quite so busy, when it's nice and quiet. But the one thing you don't want to do is start receipting that and feel you're in a hurry or rushed and make mistakes. Those cost you a lot of time, and they could take away from you being able to take care of your regular bank customers. So we don't want your regular bank customers to be standing in line and waiting. If there is somebody that has quite a few tax bills that need to be paid all at one time. So just take the high road on that and then just ask them either to come back, or better yet, what we highly recommend you do is just suggest to them that you will mail them their receipts. That's the best way to handle it. Then if a taxpayer comes in and has more than one check that they're paying on one tax bill, you also need to create a separate receipt per check. And again, I'll get into that a little bit further into the presentation. And then just know that our office is creating two different kinds of tax bills. One will be a real estate tax bill, and those tax bills have a parcel number that consists of 11 digits. Real estate tax bill would be for any property owner's property and whatever buildings are sitting on top of the property. The other type of tax bill is a personal property tax bill. That tax bill has an 11-digit number, but it is followed by a capital letter P. And those are a different kind of tax bill. Those are tax bills on improvements on leased land. So for example, the hangars at the Sheboygan County Airport are all improvements on leased land. Those are all personal property tax bills. Another type of personal property is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, where business owners are taxed on those types of items each year. And there's many other types of personal property tax bills, but just watch for those, because those will need to be receipted using a parcel number with a capital letter P, and that is indicated right on the tax bill. All right, then to set up a new user, we've already taken care of that, so that's all done. We've taken care of that with all of our banks, but especially the bank admin and the bank admin backup. If you have any questions about any of your users, contact me or Martha. Deleting a user, if any of your users leave during tax collection for whatever reason, contact Martha or me immediately to let us know. We need to make sure to inactivate that user for security purposes, so that does need to be done immediately. Logging into GCS web portal. Right now, I am on page 2 of the Word document, and there are instructions, detailed instructions on how to log in, but more importantly, the link is there on where you need to go to actually get into the web software in order to start receipting. So utilize that link, and then there's just a username, a password, and again, all of the bank admins and the bank admin backups should have that information by now. Our IT department provided everybody with that. And I would recommend that each bank admin and bank admin backup test every one of those user IDs and passwords, make sure they're working before you actually give them out to each of your associates at your bank. Okay. And then just keep in mind that when you do leave the portal every day, you must click on a button that says sign out. Make sure you do that. If you exit it any other way, you may be leaving something open, and due to the high incident of fraud and hacking these days, we just don't want to leave anything open at all for anybody to do something malicious to our web portal. Okay, then we're going to start the beginning of the day procedure, and by doing that, once you're logged in, you're going to see 2 tabs up here. You're going to click on the Manage Payments tab, and then you're going to click on the Start Batch. When you log in or click into this area the first time, you will probably see nothing in the batch area, because you'll be starting a brand new year. We're going to pause for just a minute, and then we're going to start another segment. Next, we're going to talk about receiving a payment with one check. So once you're ready, you have a batch open and you're ready to receipt, you want to click on the Payment Entry tab on your web portal. Then this screen will come up, and there will be two buttons here, one for real estate, or if you're receiving a personal property payment, then you need to check the radio button for personal property. Before I talk about the parcel number, at this time it's an excellent point by which you need to pause for a moment and just take a look at your payment, your check versus your tax bill or the stub, whatever the property owner has brought you. So take a look and make sure that the check matches the amount to be paid on the tax bill. And it's very important because if you have amounts at this point in time that don't look right, you have the taxpayer right there and you can ask them what they need to do about it. The other thing is, you also want to go through, once you've compared the check to the tax bill, you also want to go through and look the check over from top to bottom as if you are writing it out brand new yourself. So look at the date, is that correct? Is it made out to the municipality? Is the number amount correct? And then is the written part correct? And oftentimes we will find that the $100 mark is usually missing. So if the taxpayer's there, just have them correct that and initial it. I'm assuming that's an acceptable bank practice. And then just make sure the check is signed by the individual. Another circumstance that you might want to check on a payment that's presented to you would be if it's a mortgage or an escrow check. In those instances, often the checks are made payable to both the municipality and the taxpayer. In those instances, you want to make sure the taxpayer has endorsed the back of the check. Okay, so now I'm on page 4 of the Word doc, and I'll just start from here. So the first thing you're going to do is enter your parcel number, and that you get from the tax bill. Once you get familiar with the tax bill and where the parcel number is located, you'll be doing this much quicker. But the first couple of days, just understand it's going to take you longer to receive a payment, and I'd rather have you take your time and receive it slowly rather than make mistakes by doing it quickly. There's an 11-digit parcel number that goes in here, no spaces, no dashes. Once you do that, there will be a button here that says search. You'll click on the search, and then you should have one row of data that shows up. And there's a little blue icon over on this end of on the left side. You click on that blue icon. Then the next screen that will come up will be this screen right here. And we are at the bottom of page 4 on the Word document. So your parcel number should show up here. Double check it. Your tax year, we're making the tax bills in December of 2021, so that should be your tax year. This is your batch number for your particular bank. Every bank has a unique set of numbers. This is your payment date. That will be the current day's date. When you click on the tender type, the drop-down will give you a choice of cash, check, or money order. Select one of those. And then in this area, the remaining balance would be if somebody is paying their total tax in full. So they're paying it in full, and it has to be exactly in full. Otherwise, don't select this button. But if this is their tax bill and that's exactly what they're paying, you select this top radio button. The next option would be perhaps the taxpayers decided to pay the first installment only. If they are paying exactly the first installment, that's the amount populated here, then you select this radio button. If they are paying any other amount other than these two that are given here, then you need to select other. And that includes if a check from a mortgage company is for too much money, in other words, the taxpayer will be getting a refund, then you still check other. The interest and penalty, don't worry too much about that. That should be the current day's date. But at this point in time, there is no interest and penalty. But in our office, we always make this the current date. You should be identified as the teller or the cashier. And then we do need to take a couple minutes to talk about the bank notes. Those notes are very, very, very important to us, and we have a standard countywide. So I'm just going to page 5 of your Word document, and I just want to talk to you about this a little bit. If you are receiving a check, you need to put CK and then followed by the check number. No spaces, no pound sign. Then there would be a space, and then you follow with the dollar amount of the check, exactly the dollar amount of the check, and then as much of the taxpayer's name that's on the check as you can possibly fit in the rest of this field. Now you can see this one cut off. The last name is Rittenhouse, or that was the intended entry in this area. So you can see there's a very limited amount of space in this area. I probably would have put just the first initial with the last name, but this is acceptable too. Either way, whatever you can fit is the best. And this will provide us with the most information that we can possibly get. And you have to remember that after tax collection is over with on January 31st, it's not for us. We have to sort out a lot of problems that will come up. We have tax settlements to do. So this information becomes vitally important to us thereon after you enter it. Now, if this is a cash payment, you're going to put cash and then space and then the dollar amount. So let's say that the taxpayer gave you, in this instance, $2,250. That's what you're going to put in here, and of course it will be in the other. You'll put $2,250 in here, and the same down here. That tells us, and then that helps us to know that you gave a refund to that individual, right? Before you click the Submit Payment button, review everything you have done, and then you can go ahead and click your Submit Payment button. The next screen will be pretty much the same as what you have here, but there will be a View Receipt button. Click on that button. Sorry about that. And then you will get to your receipt, and then you can send that to a printer. Now, I do recommend that the banks print 2 receipts. One receipt will be for the bank, and if the taxpayer brought their stub along, you may keep that if you would like with your receipt and staple it together and put it in a pile for when you have to reconcile at the end of the day. And then the other receipt would be printed and given to the taxpayer. If they brought their entire bill and you just kept the stub, then you can staple the receipt to the tax bill and give it back to the taxpayer. That way the bank has a copy of the receipt and the taxpayer has their receipt. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about receiving two checks, paying the amount in full on one tax bill. And for that, we are on page 7 of the Word document. So say we have check number 1 and we have check number 2, but we have only one tax bill. How do you receipt that? Well, we need to make one receipt for check number 1, and then you start all over again and you make another receipt for check number 2. We do it in our office that way as well. So what has to happen, what's the differences between the receipts would be what goes in the payment note field. So the information that we just talked about on check number 1 goes in the payment note field for receipt number 1. And assuming that these are two very different amount checks, you're probably going to be checking the other radio button and entering in the dollar amount on the screen where you have to select one of the 3 radio buttons for the payment amount. The same thing goes for check number 2. Once you're finished with check number 1 and receipt number 1, then you need to process check number 2. Again, most likely it will not be exactly the full payment, which is called remaining payment, or the first installment. So you will most likely need to select the other radio button, put the amount in, and then with the payment note field, make sure that the payment notes that you're putting in there are reflecting check number 2. So now we have a question. How many receipts will there be if there is one check that is paying for 3 tax bills? So we're doing this pretty much the opposite way. What do you think? If you answered 3 receipts, you are correct. So now you have one check, but you have 3 tax bills. So we need one receipt per tax bill. So let's think about this. If you have 3 tax bills, we need 3 individual receipts. If you have more than one check, like the previous screen, you need the same number of receipts as you have checks, okay? So be careful about that. And again, what happens with this one is check number 1 for $3,000, and it's from Tom Smith. So you have 3 tax bills, and you're going to do receipt number 1. So let's say this tax bill is $2,000, this tax bill is $900, and this tax bill is $100. The first receipt will be for, again, you check the radio button for other, put $2,000 in there, and then your payment note field will say that it's this check number for $3,000. Remember, the payment note field says how much the total of the check was. You do not put $2,000 in there, it's $3,000. And then the payer would be Tom Smith. Okay. Once you're done with that receipt, you start all over and you receipt the $900 tax bill. And the receipt, again, you'll check the other radio button, you'll enter the $900, and then your payment note field will be exactly as it was in receipt number 1. Check number 1936, $3,000, Tom Smith. Then you receipt one more time for tax bill number 3, and that's for $100. Again, you check the other radio button, you enter in the $100, and the payment note field will be exactly the same as receipt number 1 and receipt number 2. Later on, when we get this file and we load it and it populates our system, we know that if we see the payment note with the $3,000, we know that there was more than one parcel that was paid with that check. So it's a huge, huge help to us, and it helps with, there's many other things that can happen after tax season where we need this information. So we are going to go to the top of page 9 on your Word document, and I'm just going to briefly talk to you about payments over the amount of the tax payment due. If your payment is over the amount, and I spoke about this just a little bit earlier in the video, you would check the other box. You would put the dollar amount in of the full payment, and then what's going to happen, and I'm sorry I don't have any videos on it, what's going to happen is once you submit payment, then you are going to get another screen that gives you a threshold information. So you process through that and you will indicate that you're giving a refund. Now, each bank will determine how you're giving the refund. If you're giving it back in cash or a bank cashier's check, that's your bank's internal decision. So then you finish the receipt and provide the taxpayer with their refund payment. And again, however your bank decides to do it internally. How to avoid taking a double payment? Well, understand that you right here are taking your payments here on the web portal. Then when your end of day is done and you transmit your batch to the municipality, that being the town, village, or city, if you have more than one municipality that you collect for, then your batch is going to go, one batch will be going to one municipality and another batch will be going to the other. The system knows whose payments you collected, and it separates the file and gives each municipality their own payments. Then the municipality is going to take your file and they're going to load it in their system. And once they've finished doing their processing and have loaded it, then they're going to pass it along and transmit it onto the county. Once we receive it, then we will be doing the same. We'll be doing some processing and loading it on our end. But until we get that file and until we load it, the web portal does not update. Again, the web portal will not update until your payments go all the way through the system. Okay, so that could mean that there could be a couple day lag between the time that we get your file loaded and the date that you actually received the payment. So what that means is, because you're in a live system, that means that it could be easy for you to take a double payment. So in other words, if I came in the bank today and I made a payment on my parcel, and then my spouse came in tomorrow and made the same payment on the same parcel, it is possible to take a double payment. Now those types of situations hopefully are remote, but they cause serious problems once they get down here. So we want to avoid those at all costs. Now those are difficult for you to even remedy, so don't worry about those. The ones that you can remedy would be on the same day. So say somebody gives you 4 or 5 tax bills and 1 check, take your time, because what we have seen in the past is sometimes tax bill number 2 gets receipted twice, tax bill number 3 doesn't get receipted at all, and then tax bill number 4 and 5 get receipted. So that's where you have to be very careful and pay real close attention to your parcel numbers versus just entering them all in real quickly and not paying real close attention. So we want you to make sure to take your time. And again, if you do have a taxpayer that has multiple tax bills and you're busy in the bank, just ask that person if you can they can leave their payment and their tax bills with you, or the stubs actually, and that you can mail them a receipt. That way, when things are slower in the bank, you can take care of receipting it when you have the time to do it, and you can concentrate on the payment. Sorry if there are any interruptions, I lost my cameraman. So now we are on the top of page 10 on the Word document, and we're going to talk about how to void a payment if the wrong info or amount is entered in an open bank batch. So if you do have an issue with a payment, and you discover that in an open batch you've entered something incorrectly, remember at one of the first screens we have the two tabs on the top. You're going to click the tab to the right to do where you go in and open up a new batch. So you're going to go to that area, and then on the far left there is a little eye next to your open bank batch. You're going to click on that little eye, and then you're going to see all of the next screen that will open up will be this one, and it will have all of your payments listed. So you need to find the payment that has the issue, and then you're going to click on the X to delete that payment, and then you would need to go back into the payment entry tab and re-enter the payment. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to call our office. We'll be more than happy to help you through that. The next would be the end of day procedure, and that is on the middle of page 10. I think the most important thing to tell you is never close your batch, which would be transmitting the batch. So never ever close it which is by transmitting it. Never do that until you have first reconciled. Now some banks ask, well, how in the world do we handle that if taxpayers are still coming in? Well, all of you have a cutoff time for taxpayers. Now, does that mean everybody reads their tax bill and listens to that cutoff time? No. Maybe somebody works until 4 o'clock and they're rushing to the bank and they're paying you. Well, you can do one of a couple things. If somebody would come while you're reconciling the batch, you can either enter it in the batch, making sure you communicate to one another if you are making an entry, or you could ask the taxpayer, you could explain to them that you're closing out the batch and reconciling the current day's batch, but you'll be more than happy to hold on to their payment and put it in a safe place in your vault or whatever, and that you would receipt it first thing in the morning when you start your new batch. So just work with the taxpayers. Hopefully they'll work with you and work around that particular scenario. But now the next thing is you're going to click on the Manage Payments. You're going to click on the I next to your open batch. Remember, the open batch would be the one that says false here, meaning it has not been transmitted. You're going to click on the I, and then you're going to get a listing of all of your payments. One of the things you can do, there's a little printer icon over here. You can print out all of your payments. Our software company does know that I would like a few more bells and whistles in this report. However, this is all we have right now. It does not itemize your cash versus your checks that I know of, unless there's been an update to it. So you will have to add your cash and your checks and just make sure it comes out to your total, which will be on the bottom line here. All right, then if you do collect for more than one municipality, there's a breakdown down here of who's going to get what. So the total tax amount, what was overpaid, and then the total amount that was paid. So just keep in mind that the total tax amount paid, I believe, is what you would be paying your municipality. So the total tax amount paid, because if you've taken care of the overpayments, then the total tax amount paid would be what goes to the municipality. All right? So once you have everything reconciled, once everything balances and you're ready to go, then you click on transfer batch. And again, what that will do is that will send your batch right to the municipality. All right, I'm on page 11 of the Word document, and we're just going to go through some best practices real quickly. However, you have the Word document. I just would encourage you to read through it in your own time. What's on here is abbreviated compared to the Word document, but I'll go through them quickly. Again, deposits made during the first installment are made directly to your municipality, not to the county. I know some of the banks do collect second installment for Sheboygan County Treasurer's Office, and we do appreciate that so much. But just know that all deposits go to the municipality, not the county. Have a designated spot to store all of your checks, cash, and receipts from your payments during the day. For those of you that like checklists, you might want to add a reminder to your Outlook or Google or for your closing checklists. And then some banks are doing dual initials during their closing of their batches. Again, that's all internal. You decide what you're going to do and what works best for you. Be familiar with how to provide a receipt to a taxpayer if the transaction has already been completed. I probably would just recommend that you refer the taxpayer to either our office or the municipality so that you don't end up doing that. We know that your time is valuable, and we actually on our web portal have a place for individuals to print a report that shows their tax payment on it. But either way, our office can generate a receipt and either email it or mail it to the taxpayer. So if you give them our general telephone number, which is 459-3015, if you give them that number, and do not give out Martha or my number, those are not for the public, those are just for you internally at the bank. But either way, we can help people, or the municipality can also do the same. Again, when you're bringing up searching for a parcel to apply a payment, make sure you're searching by parcel number, not by name. Again, there's a higher risk for error if you're searching by name versus by parcel number. And there's also mistakes can be made that way, and we've seen them, so we do highly recommend using the parcel number. When you're done with your end of day, make sure you have a place to save all of your well, we bundle up each of our envelopes or whatever we get. We bundle them all up. We use USPS mail trays to store them in, and we write the batch number and the date on the very front of the packet. So just be organized about that, be ready to be organized, and you'll do just fine. If you have closed a batch for the evening and then a taxpayer comes in, we just talked about that. There are some banks that actually open up a batch at the end of the day, might only take 1 or 2 payments in, and then they actually close it out at the end of the day. They don't carry it over, and they make a second deposit to that municipality yet that same day. So you might have more than one batch. Now, another thing that some banks are doing, especially if you have high volumes of taxpayers, they batch out anyways twice a day or more. So they might batch out by noontime, and then they might batch out or close their batch in the late afternoon. So again, you decide. I'm on page 12 right now. So just a reminder, the last day you will be entering payments will be January 31st. If you have any GCS related issues, make sure you call myself or Martha directly, and our direct telephone numbers are here. And also if your internet is down or our web portal is down, again, call me or Martha, and we will start helping you resolve those issues. Whether we have to get a hold of our software company or whatever we have to do, we will get that going. So I want to thank you so much for being part of the video education with our office, and I really hope that you have a successful tax season with your municipalities. Thank you so much, and have a good day.